believers, unaffiliated believers, sort of believers, you think I'm a believer's, welcome. All my non-university students, welcome to the Uncensored Unprofessor. If you've ever felt like there was something missing in your Christian faith or that you've been wanting to dive deeper into the meaning of Christianity, this is the podcast for you. Today we explore further my subject, why we must fail. And I want to explore a topic that the authors of The Coddling of the American Mind, again their names are Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. I want to explore a topic, again, it's just a stellar book for understanding our culture's current climate. I want to explore the topic that they unpack, which is called Saftey-ism. When I was just a toddler, my parents tell me anyway, I would stand at our apartment's living room window, look up into the tree, and say, "Don't fall, birdies." Apparently, I didn't want the birdies to get hurt. And today when I'm driving, I flinch every time a bird fails to get out of the way of the car. Sheesh. In Southern California, where I worked in construction for 8 years, I was on the freeway all the time, there were pigeons that would fly above the cars along the freeway, and suddenly, sometimes, they would swoop down so that they would catch the gush of air coming up off of the roof of my car. And honestly, I think they were just having ornithological fun. They'd fly and the air blasts would powerfully shoot them up over the freeway, but once in a while, they'd underestimate the speed of the car and go splat right into my windshield, and I'd always feel bad. Poor bird, risky bird. My point is that we don't like pain. We don't like failure. We don't even like it when other people or creatures get hurt, experience failure. If you're new to the show, my name is Ed Rybarczyk. I have a PhD in the history of theology. I've published 4 books, wrote many journal articles. Immersed in the world of ideas, I love being a professor. I taught college for 25 years, but partly, I just could no longer take the heavy coddling inside the university. By the way, in 2 premium podcasts for my subscribers, I go into detail about why I left. But significantly, college has changed so much that it's not much of a reflection of what college was for, hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's really not much like the rigorous education it was when I was an undergraduate some 35 years ago. Anyway, coupled with the enormous sea change in what constitutes Christian education today, because it's not at all about making disciples. That was the very reason most private Christian schools were started, to make disciples. And because Christian education has changed so much today, I left. It wasn't an easy decision, but I just kept finding myself saying, this is not who I am in Christ. This is not the heart of Christ. Oh man, as I'm yakking here, I remember a college administrator standing before the entire faculty and saying, "Folks, we need to make the runway longer for our students. We need to help them find ways to succeed during their time here with us." Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that those words were code for, "Folks, we are recruiting D-level high school graduates, and frankly, they're going to find college difficult. So, could you please make things easier for them?" Oh, it was awful. The faculty found it depressing. And frankly, it was a way to infantilize the incoming students, treat them as babies. But I tell you that sorrowful story only to note that this is a part of the larger societal trend within which we now find ourselves. We don't want people to fail. Failure hurts. Dag nabbit, people should never have their feelings hurt. Hey, The UU thinking doesn't only happen on my podcasts. I send out regular newsletters, and I'd be happy to have you in that loop. You can subscribe at uncensoredunprofessor.com. In their brilliant book, The Coddling of the American Mind, again, authors Haidt and Lukianoff, and I got to tell you, they're left-of-center professors. Neither one believes in God, so their expose of college life is all the more credible. In their book, they help readers understand that the craziness occurring on colleges today is really only the leading edge of the enormous cultural shift at work across America. Little indignities like mispronouncing someone's last name or talking about America as a melting pot or talking favorably about the pursuit of the American dream, those are all now deemed microaggressions by college types. Why is that silliness being embraced? College administrators do not want their students to have their feelings hurt. And gall darn it, adulting is hard. Or passing out trophies in Little League to every single team? Why? Geez, to me's. Some of the kids might have their feelings get hurt if they didn't get a trophy. And whatever Little League is about, it's not about hurting kids' feelings. The dumb irony, many have told me. All those trophies later meant absolutely nothing. Why would they? You got a trophy for showing up? It ruins the nature of competition. It demeans the winner's own hard work and practice. How about this one? Setting aside entire classrooms, areas called safe spaces, where students can go to escape ideas that hurt their feelings? Where they can even have counselors listen to their worries? Yep, makes sense to college administrators. After all, college administrators do not want their students to have their feelings hurt. They might leave and take their tuition money with them. And gall darn it, adulting is hard. Eliminating dodgeball and monkey bars and teeter-totters on elementary school playgrounds? Duh! We got to make sure those kids are safe. We don't want them to get hurt. And the drive to protect people from physical harm has now spilled over into a twisted need to protect folks from emotional harm. Hey, let me interrupt my thinking to say, please don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes. You'd really help me if you left a rating and a review on iTunes. But oh, the problems of progress. And that is just what the coddling of the American mind authors call this. This we need to protect everyone's feelings dynamic, a problem of progress. I myself talked about that dynamic in my episode of A Weird Reflection on Self-Awareness, and I thought out loud along the same lines in my episode, A Conversation with My Mom. Because for millennia, people used to crawl off the bearskin rug, no beds for most of human history. They'd crawl off the bearskin rug in the morning and start their day by wondering, who can I find to help my littlest girl with her rotten molar? And then they'd go to bed at night praying, please, God in heaven, help us harvest enough food to get all 8 kids through the winter. I once met a Muslim woman in Kosovo who had a child die due to the winter cold. It was so strange to my Western modern sensibilities. We used to have it hard. Or, as my son John commonly puts it, we used to process reality by wondering, how can we not get eaten by wolves tonight? Today we're worried about our skin complexion or the proper length of our pants. My whole life I've struggled with wearing pants that look like high waters. We have it so good today that we not only do not want somebody to solve a dispute with dueling pistols, we positively do not want someone to say something we don't like. For generations here in the States, colleges have been bastions of free speech. When I was a kid, my parents participated in an anti-Vietnam protest parade. Colleges knew that people, students, professors needed to be able to express their ideas, to recount history, and if people were going to learn, if students were going to learn, they knew we needed free speech to think critically. For 240 years, one of the features that marked the United States as a unique place among the nations was our emphasis upon free speech. But today, free speech is now far less important to the I generation, than any generation in American history. Do you think I'm making this up? Lukianoff and Haidt report that in 2014 at Bergen Community College in New Jersey, and here I'm quoting from their book, an art professor was placed on leave without pay and sent to psychological counseling for a social media post. The post showed a photograph of the professor's young daughter wearing a t-shirt that depicted a dragon and the words, I will take what is mine with fire and blood, which the school claimed was threatening. The professor explained that the shirt referenced the popular TV show Game of Thrones, but an administrator insisted that fire could refer to an AK-47. No overread going on there. She was a young girl. No bad faith interpretation occurring there. Sheesh, it was a t-shirt, right? Fire and blood equals an AK-47? Wow, that's cray-cray. But that's where we are in history. And college students are taught now that the interpreter is the significant person in an exchange, not the speaker. So, if I think what you said is hurtful, then it is hurtful. That's crazy. In biblical terminology, we would call that bearing false witness. What else? Oh yeah, how about the heckler's veto? Undoubtedly, you've heard about college students who either shout down a speaker with whom they disagree or block the physical entrance to a seminar where a villain, a bad person, a person who espouses ideas that students reject, they'll block that person from giving an address. I mean, if you look for 3 minutes on YouTube, you can find examples of this childish behavior. Hey, if you've signed up for the show on YouTube, thank you so much. I see the numbers going up there. I appreciate it. But me? I've had some of my most profound shifts in understanding and growth in compassion by listening to people with whom I initially thought I disagreed. I think it's one of the most amazing dynamics about a university education that we get exposed to ideas and practices and beliefs that are not our own. And often through those encounters, we learn to commiserate with others. Often we can learn a true sense of tolerance. And for me, even when I disagreed with a speaker or a professor like that, I would go away better understanding what I believed and why. It's called thinking outside the box, Jerry. So why? Why this huge, significant historical turn? It's because students have been taught, since kindergarten, that they should not have to listen to any ideas that they don't like. And the ideas they don't like, well, obviously, they're spoken by bad people, right? Because we can no longer have civil public disagreement. Social media teaches us that life is only white and black, good and bad, heroes and villains must be silenced. Villains do not have a right to free speech. Who's a villain? Anyone you don't agree with. Or worse, anyone who is the wrong skin color? Holy shnikes. Ew. It's so polarizing, but it's easy, and because it's easy, it's so widely embraced. How should I process reality? Oh, let's see, I know. I'm good, so you must be bad. Obviously, my ideas are noble, so your ideas must be awful. You don't say things like me and my friends do, so, well, duh, you must be a Nazi. And if you can stomach it, because I sure couldn't, that kind of nonsense was being taught at the university where I was teaching theology, which is to say, Christian colleges are swiftly becoming infected by this mindless dreck, this bearing false witness, this assuming the worst of others' way of thinking. It's so sad, and it's widely perverting our society. And all that I noted above, microaggressions, safe spaces, Little League trophies, playground equipment, the elimination of free speech in the one country founded on free speech, the heckler's veto, all of that is just obvious examples of our present cultural madness. We could describe here the things that are now occurring in workplaces and businesses, in athletic competition, in legal venues, and it would all make our skin crawl. It's beyond out of control. And it's doubly grotesque because it's often done in the name of social justice. Oh my God. Oh my me. Dr. Ed? I don't hear you today talking about theology, nor are you talking about church history. Why, you're not even talking about Christian spirituality. Just who do you think you are? Honestly, and thanks for calling me doctor, biblical spirituality is about everything. I can't take the time to describe for you how the Enlightenment and then modernism and how today postmodernism have all caused us to separate out the categories of life into physical and spiritual, legal and mundane, private and public, political and religious. The Bible doesn't do that. Biblical spirituality is about all of life because God is the creator of life, because Jesus came to redeem all of life, because God's goal is to repristinate, to Holy Spiritualize all of life. Biblical spirituality is earthy spirituality. Biblical spirituality is all-encompassing. Go read the Gospels, please. There is, Leslie Newbigin says in his book, The Light Has Come, there is in the Gospels no attempt to spiritualize by filtering out concrete details. The Bible just does not split reality into secular and sacred. Newbigin correctly says, quote, in a biblical worldview, the spiritual and the material are in no way held apart, end quote. And frankly, the church is losing her saltiness because she won't preach about these kinds of matters. Unlike my UU listeners, the church is turning her brains off. The church is so worried about offending anyone that our collective voice is effectively being rendered mute. Please go listen to my series on Why is the Church Sick? Okay, what are some solutions? First, I'll note just two of many that Haidt and Lukianoff seduced. Number one, make a charitable assumption. You meet a stranger? Give her the benefit of the doubt before you judge her. Are you conversing with a relative who doesn't vote like you? Approach him with grace, not immediate judgment. Make a charitable assumption. Be pleasant. In biblical categories, we would say things like, hold your tongue, or recognize that he was also created in the image of God, or wisdom is found in the chorus of many voices. but make a charitable assumption. The weight of the other person's ideas will eventually prove true, or not. The fruit of their ideas will eventually branch out, or not. But this present-day craven need to instantaneously judge someone is completely immature. Second solution that the authors of The Coddling of the American Mind seduced: parents, give your kids some space. It's okay if they fall and skin their knee. Never was there an Olympic ice skating gold medalist whose parents protected them from falling over and over and over and over. Falling down will teach them how to get back up. Letting them fall down will teach them to develop keener balance. Lukianoff and Haidt put it like this, quote, "The gift of experience begins with the recognition that kids need some unstructured, unsupervised time in order to learn how to judge risks for themselves and practice dealing with things like frustration, boredom, and interpersonal conflict." End quote. Me? The you? Oh, boredom is so good for kids. Yes, kids can get into trouble when they're bored. Geez, they can get into trouble anytime. But boredom teaches them to entertain themselves. Boredom gives them the space to open their imaginations. Boredom teaches them patience. Holy Lord in heaven. Boredom teaches them that there will not always be somebody, some bureaucrat, to come and rescue them from their plight. When I was a kid, back when I was a kid, me and my brothers used to organize neighborhood baseball and football games. Or, with our hands and shovels and pieces of wood, scrap wood, we built bike racing tracks. With banked corners and jumps, we took empty lots in the neighborhood and converted them into bike racing tracks. We spent long hours hiking through the fields near town. We spent longer hours still riding our bikes around town, picking up cans and bottles so we could take them to the store and redeem them for some candy. We used that boredom to our advantage. That boredom taught all 6 of us how to think outside the box. Oh, for the love of us all, give your kids some space. Kids become adults. Adults build society. What does this mean for your walk with Christ? Okay, yeah, I'll get to that momentarily, but for now, it's time for an ADD break. I have a confession. I'm a germaphobe. I don't know if it's from the general societal trend of Saftey-ism or from years of watching Seinfeld, because Jerry hated touching door handles. But me, I'm leery of catching diseases. At the end of every semester, I used to want to give my lectures or distribute the final exams while I was wearing a face mask. I didn't want whatever lung infection the students were all fighting. By the way, thinking of germs, why did the paramecium cross the road? He was stuck to the chicken's butt. What type of flowers do bacteria like? Germaniums? Thanks, teachersource.com, for those 2 goofs. So yeah, I'm a germaphobe. It's so bad. How bad is it, Ed? It's so bad that when I go to somebody else's house and I use their bathroom, I will use the back side of the hand towel. And worse, if I feel cornered, that is, if the hand towel looks disgusting on both the front and back, if it looks freshly wet on both the front and back, I will use the back side of a decorative towel. Sorry, I just don't want to touch what the guy in there right before me touched, right? He thought to himself, I think I'll just rinse with water. No soap today. And me, I'm not following that guy's use of the hand towel. Yeesh. It's good to be a germaphobe. How does this insidious culture of Saftey-ism impact Christian living and mission? Well, obviously, it makes us play it safe. We get stuck. Getting stuck is the natural human response, and it's a conservative response, right? It's the natural human response to dig in fear. If you go outside the village, there'll be dragons. So we play it safe with Christian living. For example, with prayer. If you ask God for more, you might become busy. Careful, if you ask God for deliverance, you might yourself have to change. Oh, human nature, we're so weird. Believers will endure the most horrific shizzle just so that they don't have to endure change. Careful, if you ask God to break those chains, what will you do with all your time? If you leave your tenured theology position, how will you possibly find purpose or meaning in life? We play it safe. We don't ask God for too much. We don't ask God for more. We settle, get complacent. We exhibit little expectant hope. Or, on a different plane, because of Saftey-ism, we blame God. This one could use an entire series. God's in control of everything, so the miserable situation I'm in must be His will. God is sovereign, so this abhorrent cycle of dependency must be His strange plan for my life. Ugh. And then we fail to take action. Lord, help us. Who will deliver us from this body of death? Not just a couple examples for Christian living. There's Christian mission. Goodness grief, I could apply the problems of Saftey-ism to Christian mission in 100 ways, but I'll just list a few. We don't say God bless you to a stranger in public because we might offend them. What if that little phrase of grace touched her heart? What if it gently reminded her that this life is not all there is? We don't preach the full gospel, including Christ-like morality, lest we offend the non-religious. We don't teach a fully developed biblical worldview, lest we overstep the culture of Saftey-ism's sensibilities. Why, Larry, you can't teach them about demons. They'll think you're crazy. And worse, they're quite good friends with several demons. Folks, this is my vocation. This is my job. I love this new venture the Lord has put in my lap. But it involves expenses, equipment, several different ongoing internet applications, several monthly subscriptions, website development and design and upkeep, social media advertising. You like the show? Please go to Patreon and make a monthly pledge. Gold, $5 a month. Frankincense, $10 a month. Myrrh, $20. At Patreon, you can see all the ways I give back to my supporters. Seriously, thank you for your consideration. Those pledges mean so much. Okay, I need to wrap this up. Please, I'm not arguing that we should throw all caution to the wind. I'm not at all suggesting that we turn our brains off and mindlessly follow our emotions. Some dreams only result in nightmares. But I am pleading that we try, even with baby steps, to buck this horrid trend of Saftey-ism. It's bad for people. It flattens out the joy of living. It's bad for society. It's injurious to Christian life and mission. It's a problem of progress. And it's one of those weird, unexpected consequences that political scientists warn us about. We are masters at taking something necessary, something good, and turning it into something enslaving and life-throttling. Thank you so much for listening. It's time for me to go, and please turn your brains on, everybody.